Yo, what's going on, everybody? ITU. It's your boy Mike coming at you. Is here with me? We're gonna go over a weekly overview, kind of see where we're at, what we're gonna be heading into coming into the week here. Just hopping right into it. I hope everybody's enjoying their Sunday. These football games, crazy football day. For those of y'all that are Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans, Green Bay Packer fans,
Them
Baltimore Raven
Giants, them
fans,
Giants coming
yeah.
back out here. Them Giants coming back out here,
Yo,
boy.
hey, rumor is when he comes back healthy from his ACL tear in the Super Bowl, Odell might be going back to New York. So keep your eyes open for that.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh shit! And we got a new
yep,
coach. Boy, shit
yep,
looking good. That's what I like to
yeah,
hear. That's what I like to
yep.
hear.
It's the Bills, the Giants, and the Rams right now that are the top three teams that he could choose. So
Hey,
it'd be kind of
good
interesting to
year.
see him go back to New York.
It's a good year for real, for real.
So kind of heading into the financing side of the week here. Last week was the big week, of course, and we saw, PPI come out. We saw CPI come out. People not only is inflation going up, but we've seen and we've talked about people spending money as well. Core retail sales were up, which is funny because jobs are overall month over month down. So it's weird because Friday was the surveys. Here, I'll show you guys here real quick. The U of M surveys that literally speak about consumer sentiment and inflation expectations. So this is 500 people being surveyed, right? What do you think is going to happen with the economy? Oh, the economy is great. Oh, but our inflation's going up. Wait, that's to me that's contradiction because as long as inflation's going up, your dollar's worth shit here. So that's not good, and this is why we saw the drop in indices the way that we did, right? So we saw a little bit of a push, and in fact, this is also the scary thing when we talked about core retail sales being the measure of how people are spending money, because retail sales include automobiles. So not everybody's buying an automobile every single day. So this is not usually focused on as much as core retail sales. Core retail sales are your basic retail payments for whatever, right? How people are spending money outside of automobiles. We're up. How? Where is this money coming from? And I think we talked about it a couple times. The holiday season expected to have $2 billion funneling through. I think if you guys look into the research as to where inflation is at, what they're going to be doing with interest rates could be a full 100 basis point move at the end of November now. That came out, I think, on Friday. So it's not looking good, but yet we're feeling pretty good. How? I don't get it. Something's going to break. Coming into this week, it's a lot of stuff that's going to be based outside of our backyard. It's mainly going to be GDP for the Chinese yuan. So the China's GDP. This is going to be interesting to see if it goes up a full percent. If they go up a full percent, they're being productive in their exports and products and jobs are all looking beautiful over in China. That's going to be interesting. We haven't seen it happen yet because every time, it was back in April, right? We saw it above 4.2% and hit 4.8. But there was a massive difference here as far as July goes once everything started taking control with inflation, where we were really 75 basis points up. Our GDP was down big, et cetera, et cetera. The whole world started declining at this point. So is 3.4% high? Absolutely, because it didn't even reach 1.2 last time. So I'd be interested to see how the Chinese yuan is going to be moving at this point. If the rest, consider this as well as I go through this, if the rest of the world goes down in value, the dollar will go up in value. So we may have a bullish week on the US dollar without having many red folders this week at all, right, to begin the week. So Empire State Manufacturing Index, this should send the dollar down on Monday morning. Why? Because this is the survey of business owners and whatnot of how business conditions are looking. And business conditions with PPI going up last week, business conditions aren't looking good, which hence look, 4.3, down from 1.5. They're expecting a massive drop into a deeper negative. Now, we haven't really had, I mean, look, over the past quarter, August was the worst, right? We were looking pretty good back in July, but again, that was a turning point. So then we started seeing the drop, and look, we were expected to go way down, and it was bullish even though it was down, period, right? So consider this as 4.3 a big difference. Yeah, it could be considered a big difference, especially when you're talking about percentages and being like retail sales was like supposed to be a 0.1% difference. It's like borderline. I compared it to betting, right? How many people bet on a spread when it's like a plus or minus 1.5? They don't really do that because it's one move, one basket, one field goal, whatever it may be, one run that could change the whole game. So, sometimes that's not always the best bet because it could go one way or the other. So this could be one of those situations. If we do drop at all, it's not going to look good, right? Because now businesses are saying we're feeling the heat. But again, what we could be seeing is this being a pullback for a bullish move afterwards, right? As things happen throughout this week. So let's go into Tuesday here. Not much going on through Tuesday. Capacity utilization rates, industrial production month over month, housing market index. Pay attention to this just because if the numbers go down, housing will continue to kind of take a turn a little bit. So we have GBP CPI. So remember this is the year over year change as well. So how much has GBP gone up in inflation? Great Britain, the UK, they're saying over the past year it's been 10%. You guys want to put that in perspective? Ours is only at 4.6% right now, and they've doubled us. Their expectation for the year is a doubling of the United States inflation. So if people think it's bad here, it's bad all over the world. But if this reaches 10% and hits that above 9.9%, what's going to happen? Because GBP is based, the BXY, mind you, the BXY, the index for the GBP, that's based on numerical value, unlike the US dollar. So what you'll see is when inflation goes up, the value of the GBP will actually go down. What happens with our US dollar when CPI goes up? It goes up. Why? Because of the demand portion. That's what I mean by view the supply and demand in the DXY and look at numerical value on every other chart when you're looking at BXY, EXY, AXY, SXY, right? Whatever it is. Any of these XYs that are out there, watch what happens when our CPI goes up and it pushes the dollar up, everything else comes down, right? When their CPI goes up, their values go down, which as they should. So if this reaches 10% on the year over year, watch how far GBP is going to be dropping. And that's what I mean by we could end up having a bullish move to begin the week for the US dollar, right? Then we hit Wednesday, CAD CPI month over month, right? Look, this is supposed to have gotten better. If it goes from a negative 0.3% to a 0, that's going to be a bullish move, which is probably going to push the US dollar down a little bit, right? So theirs also comes in 4 different stages, it looks like. So consider the way that these inflation numbers are coming out all week, and then we hit AUD's employment change, and then their unemployment rate. If the AUD is going up and is bullish, the XY will continue down, right? So I'll get to what I mean by every single one of these moves that I'm kind of mentioning as far as correlation goes. With bullish moves, even because of other people's information, or bearish moves because of other people's information. If DXY, if their employment rate gets better, yeah, it's going to push ours down. It's going to push ours down and push them up. So then we come into the Philly Manufacturing Index and unemployment claims for Thursday for us, right? If this is still negative and goes down, if it goes down -5, right? Full 5 points or more, that's going to be a bearish move for the US dollar. And this kind of goes into how do they feel about economic health from businesses, right? This is kind of along the lines of the the one from Monday, which is the Empire State Manufacturing Index, right? Another reading. Unemployment claims are expecting to go up. Existing home sales, pay attention to this, guys. It's supposed to go down, right? So, which is what we've been waiting for. And then you get CAD sales and retail sales throughout Friday, which is going to close out on an easy day. But your news is really going to come from outside of the country and seeing how we react. So let's take that over to the DXY here real quick, right? Now I'm going to go based on the 1 hour here. As my screen wants to load. Okay. So what do we see on the 1 hour? We see a left side and we see a right side forming. Now, what did I just literally say? We could have bullish moves and bearish moves because of everything else. Consider this as a possible neckline, because as we have everybody's reading and a lot of it not hitting the USD directly and it's all outside, we could have this tonight, bullish news tomorrow, coming all the, continuously playing all within here. Kind of like the way that this is going and then dropping, right? There's a lot of sell side liquidity. Whatever happens within here is going to happen probably throughout this week. I'm not expecting a lot of movement from DXY this week. Why? Because like I said, everything is going to happen outside of here. So what can we see? We can possibly see just a form of a right side being formed of a bigger double top, and then it come down to retest and then take right back off, right? It may not even come this low. It may come down to here and retest in this area, right? It may even retest only the neckline. And why could that be? Because look, we have this little area right here where we had a little bit of indecision. Your double top really starts right there. Right? It doesn't start all the way down here. This is just a bunch of sell side liquidity that we could possibly see some movement for. But I don't think that a lot of the sell side liquidity is being grabbed right now, because a lot of the sell side liquidity is going to happen when we have a big drop for the US dollar when shit hits the fan for us. Okay. So as I continue to see both of these ways, and possibly, including like a form of consolidation here, there is some imbalance up here. There's this resistance here. This is why I have, this area just kind of retesting, because look, we have to reach up here before in the RSI into the overbought area before we can possibly say, okay, cool, this is going to be bearish. Once it reaches overbought, I'm going to look for some divergence and then look for it to go oversold. And that's when we're going to end up having this. But we need to gain volume. So what do we do? How do you gain volume? Zay, what do you do when you gain volume? It begins with an A. It's part of a cycle.
When you're accumulating.
Yes, exactly. When you're accumulating. Guess what's happening in this area right here? Accumulating orders, right? So with that being said, how are investors going to feel about the whole country, the market, right? Well, look at what we have here. I don't know about you, Zay, but I kind of see reasons to look for sales. I look for sells. And 100%. As I come down, 100%. As I look for reasons, I can see, and this is why I have this marked off here, and there's this little area right here, this fair value gap that needed to be filled. So as we look for a drop on DXY from the Empire State Manufacturing, right, we could possibly start seeing this throughout the morning into tomorrow to give us the actual drop. And then we can start doing the same thing over here where we're accumulating sales, but we're accumulating orders right now, right? I see a retest up here, and then from there, sales.
Exactly, right? Exactly what we discussed.
Mm-hmm. And even bigger. So it's funny. We have a possible neckline right here, but guess what? We have a possible neckline right here, because when you look from the bigger perspective, Bam, right? We have many reasons to believe that this is going to, for me, that I feel like this is going to come down. And if the housing market really starts crashing, if unemployment is going up the way that it looks, and if there's a lot of non-confidence from business side controllers and managers and business owners, Philly Fed, Empire Fed, or Empire Manufacturing, right? And guess what? We can see these drops, right? Also, where we can start seeing some of these drops, we might not see it a lot as far as a possible wick. Well, I mean, we could possibly see the wick. Now, I'll go back to DXY here for a second, because we should see, if I'm going to time this correctly, we should see this drop up here. So this form of possible filling of imbalance, retesting of the resistance to start dropping back down, right? This drop should start when AUD announces its unemployment. As AUD gets strong, the DXY will get weak. Right? So if I go into this case and I'm starting to see this drop here, I should be expecting that if I go to AU itself, that we should start seeing it hitting the support and needing to come up. So let's go ahead and hit AU real quick. Now, I'm doing this live with you guys. I haven't looked at the markets all damn day. So I haven't really even paid attention much to it. But look, we have a lot of buy-side liquidity up here, a lot of buy-side liquidity all the way up here, right? So I have to expect that as we see a low and a higher low here, and we see this where it's kind of matching in the sense the trend is actually working, right? Well, we went oversold. We almost had the retest, and now we have nothing but movement to the upside. Now, how far is this upside going to go? Well, it should come up here. We'll have some form of a drop, which is that push up for the DXY. And then I would bet that as it comes back down, we start seeing the employment if that goes the way that it needs to, right? If the employment rate stays the same and the employment numbers themselves go up, where it's like 25, what was it, 25? Where was it at? 25,000? What are you talking about? 25,000 jobs? That would be nice for them. You know, as long as it goes higher than 25,000 jobs, if it comes between 33 and 25, their employment change is actually going to be dropping. But as long as it's forecasted good, we might be able to see a bullish move for AU just to hit this resistance. Play around for a little bit and then drop when DXY starts going up. So that would translate for me down into this area, right? We would see whatever combination is up here. We'll see that kind of happen down here. But we have a lot of movement. Look, even the 4 hour. The 4 hour has a lot of movement to the upside. It needs to happen. In fact, we had divergence on the 4 hour. Beautiful divergence, by the way, where we had this drop. This was your entry. And look, that was actually a bullish move on the 4 hour. So guys, look for AU to come up for a little bit, right? If you're going to see AU come up, guess what you're going to see? EU come up and GU come up probably, right? So I wouldn't necessarily suspect that, in fact, if CPI, let's take a look at GU real quick. If CPI for them actually is bearish, what would that mean? That would mean that it's going to give us our possible entry, right? It could come up and then, or it's our continuation down for it, right? Somewhere along these lines. Because we have a lot of sell side liquidity that's available here. We see a possible double top that's being here. It was already overbought, heading down to becoming oversold on the 1 hour, right? So if I put my numbers in here, horizontal line, settings, 80, 75. All right, look, we went oversold. We need to start dropping still because we still have a little bit of room. give us a pullback? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't know. It's going to be kind of an interesting week. This would be a week that I feel a lot of traders are going to say it's going to be slow, right? So here was your divergence. There was the buy afterwards, right? It went overbought. Now we're coming down to oversold. So we could possibly see a double top here on the hour for GU to continue down, and that could be when we're seeing DXY going up before it starts dropping again. So I would be interested. I'm going to give this we're going to go over this next week as well, but let me see real quick what's going to happen for the following week. A lot of red folders: manufacturing, PMI, USD, consumer confidence, AUD, CPI, quarter over quarter. So we're going to have a lot of volatility next week. And this is where we really, GDP, you want to see where next week we're going to have that big drop for DXY. It could come when GDP hits. If GDP is negative again, they haven't given any numbers yet. But if GDP is negative again, we can bet that next week is probably going to be bearish for the US dollar, right? So I would be looking for bull moves pretty much outside of, in fact, we could possibly see this come all the way up here. I would be surprised if this actually hits 10% for GBP.
Yeah.
Right. I would be pretty surprised if this hits. And if it does, that's your entry to buy, because it's going to get one of those drops with an immediate recovery.
Take off. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I don't know. This could be times that we're going to see, especially if GDP comes out next week bearish. This could be one of the times that we're going to see the US dollar drop along with the stock market. Right. Because GDP is, I mean, shit, we're close to 6%. If we go any lower and we're closer to that 10, oh my gosh, it's not going to be good.
Yeah,
it's not going to be good. And I will tell you guys right now, I feel like it's going to be more negative. I feel like we're going to have our 5th quarter in a row that's negative. Right. So we're heading towards threefold recession, and they're still not wanting to call it right now.
Yeah.
What's her name? Mester came out last week. I don't know if anybody paid attention to the speeches last week. There's a lot of speeches that happened. But she came out and saying there's no reason to panic. There's no reason to worry. The jobs are still good, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, yo, you can look at these numbers and see completely different.
Then you follow with a market watch report of inflation looms and investors' fears.
Yeah, exactly. Can you share that real quick? Do you have that pulled up?
I dropped it in the Discord under the news tab. Yeah, I got it. You want me to share it in the chat for you?
No, can you share it on the screen real quick?
Most definitely.
Was telling me the other day that lenders are starting to just pull applications and deny them because there's some lenders that are shutting down now.
Really?
Yeah.
So they know what's to come.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, because it's bad. It's bad all around.
Yeah.
So Fed officials worry inflation is not falling as fast as they expected. Well, here's the thing: it's not falling at all. In fact, it's going up.
Unacceptable.
So it's unacceptably high, but you know who we can blame for this? We did this on the other day for the podcast. Jerome Powell.
Oh, of course.
We can blame Jerome Powell for this. He wants to be reactionary rather than in a prevent mode, right?
Correct. In preparation.
Yeah. So he's kind of screwed everything up here for us, and it's kind of